Manal Rostom, thank you so much for joining us on Euronews.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you're an activist and an athlete with a string of world firsts to your name, including being the first Egyptian to have completed 5 out of the 6 world marathon majors, among other achievements like having scaled some of the highest peaks in the world, from the Mont Blanc to the Mount Kilimanjaro. But those feats of endurance aren't the only things that you've had to face. You've also had to endure discrimination because of your decision to wear the hijab. And that led you to found a community called Surviving Hijab, which now counts almost 1 million people among its members. What is a hijab and what does it mean to you?
It's a compulsory form of worship. So by compulsory, what I mean is that as soon as every girl reaches puberty, she needs to start embracing the hijab. Yet, we also say, let there be no compulsion in religion. So it should not be forced upon these little girls, unlike popular belief, whether it's like due to cultural or social reasons. Sometimes parents in some, areas in the world, countries, they force the hijab on women. So immediately that idea has become linked to the idea of hijabi women being oppressed because the hijab was forced upon them. Hijab was never forced upon me personally. It has not been forced upon a lot of women that I know. I'm Egyptian, born and raised in Kuwait, grew up in a British school. So we are who you call third culture kids, because you're always, with this identity crisis all the time. Are you Egyptian? Are you part Western? Are you Kuwaiti? Where do you belong? So I grew up with this idea and the stereotypes that were placed on Muslim women. If she's covered or if she wears the hijab, then she's probably unapproachable, uneducated, boring, or uncool. And I actually grew up hating it. I decided to wear the hijab on April 7th, 2001. It shocked everybody. When I decided, I just went to my dad and I said, I've decided that I was going to embrace the hijab.
And he was as surprised as everyone else?
He was very surprised and he was very against me wearing the hijab.
And why was he against the idea?
He's like, how are you going to play sports? How are you going to go running? At the age of 21, I had no one that looked like me that was doing crazy stuff that I can associate with. And I reached like a breaking point in 2014 when I wanted to remove my hijab.
Okay.
And, due to these multiple incidents of, no bikinis in this pool, or hijab is not allowed if you're going to watch football with a group of friends. And I felt like I didn't want to do it anymore. I felt like society was finally going to dictate my identity because society is banning me here and banning me there and banning other women. I realized that, I didn't want to go with the flow. I had this random idea to set up a community, a platform on Facebook, a group that I called Surviving Hijab. I added 80 girls by hand. I made it a closed group. And I said, I spoke my heart, the intro is still there. It's like, hey girls, everyone is like taking off and removing their hijab nowadays because of societal pressures. And you do see that phenomenon.
What about for those who have decided, without the pressures of society, that they no longer want to wear it? What's your message to them?
So taking off your hijab can be a change of heart. You just feel like it doesn't identify you anymore, or you don't relate to it. A girl who doesn't cover, who does good deeds, can be of a higher position for God than I am. And it's not my place to judge, but my message to them is just, come on board Surviving Hijab, look at the kind of stuff that we do. You don't have to be Muslim to be on it. You don't have to be a covered hijabi woman to be on it. You just have to want to support any woman to embrace her faith, whatever way she is. Even if you're on there just to educate yourself. Little girls contact me, via Surviving Hijab and ask me the scariest question ever. So I'm 19 years old or 17 years old. I'm a basketball, champion. I was elevated, to the finals, but they won't let me play because I'm in a hijab. So do I remove my hijab or do I give up the sport?
What do you say to that?
All I would say is that you need to continue to fight for your right to play with your hijab. Mm-hmm. So I would not tell her to quit. I would not tell her to take it off because either solutions are not the solution. I'm just trying to change the world's perception about who a hijabi woman is.
So a big part of that then has been the collaboration with Nike.
Correct.
So how did that come about?
So I drafted an email to the head coaches of the Nike trainers in the Middle East. His name is Tom Wolf. And, I attached a link to our group. And I'm like, there's no Muslim representation, by such a giant brand. Isn't it about time that we start to, cater for us as women? Next morning, I received like a response from Coach Tom. And he says, great idea, when can we meet? And look, for me, that was just like huge, like gates opening of hope, Within the next couple of weeks, I became the first ever hijab-wearing athlete to appear in a Nike Middle East campaign. And they had manufactured a hijab that was breathable, that was dry fit. And I was to become the face of it, in the world, not just in the Middle East.
In Belgium recently, we've seen that the hijab has been banned in certain universities. That sparked protests, the creation of a movement there.
Hijabis fight back. So Belgium is coming out and saying, if you wear the hijab, you're not allowed in our university. So for me, that just doesn't make any sense. Women should be allowed to educate themselves, whichever faith. I think there's still lack of education about what the hijab is. It's not a symbol, it's a dress code.
Of course, there's opposition. And you've faced a lot, like quite a backlash really since this activism started. What is the criticism and how do you respond to it?
So from the Muslim community, I have team Manal does not represent us. Manal's dress code is not even Islamic. Manal is ruining the image of Muslim women around the world. Manal is doing all this for fame. And then I have another team, West, who are like, the hijab is a sign of oppression. You're supporting oppression for women. And see, that's exactly why I think there needs to be a lot more education. Hijab is not the oppression, society is. Society is putting the oppression on us by banning us. They are not doing their homework to educate themselves about what it stands for, why we wear it, how we wear it, why we should be allowed to wear it.
And I want to finish by talking a little bit more about Surviving Hijab. So you've had quite a few kind of outings, and one of them involved the base camp in Everest. I'd like to hear more about that story.
I wanted to take up women to the base camp of the highest mountain in the world, which is Everest. And, my message was that together, whether you are Muslim or not, whether you cover or not, whether, you're black or white, we all stand together to support women to exercise their faith the way they want to.
Manal Rostom, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Euronews.
Thank you so much.